Hey, Joe Thomas, are you there? I know, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you expecting, I mean, I just had Todd join, Todd Ferris. Is anyone else going to be on this, you think?
Yeah, Jill Tangeman.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay. And as far as the zoning board members go, it's just going to be the three of you this evening. So Dennis, Todd, and Adam. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Based what I see on YouTube, I think there's some individuals that are tuning in. So we'll be starting the meeting at 7 o'clock. Jeff, are you able to submit comments on the chat thing or that? So I know others have had problems with it before, but.
I'm working on that now. I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay. If not, I can do it. I just need you to really just keep an eye on it.
Okay.
I'd like to send something out sooner than later. If my thing will work. Come on. Sorry, everybody. Oops. Okay, I see that you got it to work. So I think we're ready to start the meeting, everybody.
All right. Michelle, we can do roll call.
Yes, Mr. Pahovich,
Yes.
Mr. Dove, Mr. Dove.
Sorry, now I'm unmuted here.
Here, okay. Mr. McNulty.
Here.
And Mr. Doherty. We did have, Dustin Doherty did reach out to me and said he was unable to attend this evening. So we do have a full quorum. We do have a quorum, not a full quorum, but with the 3 members present. You want to go to the next, well, just to give a background, I guess, moving forward for the zoning commission, we'd like to share language or swear in witnesses. Our new legal counsel has advised us to state such language at the beginning of every meeting. And so I'll have Adam do that now.
All right. Anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State, I do.
I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to offer testimony, please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. The second, anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through the online chat room function also needs to be sworn in remotely. Before your initial comment, please type your name, address, and the words "I affirm" to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony that you are offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right.
Adam, if I may, before we start on the application this evening, I just want to bring up that our most recent chair, Mark Joel, has resigned from the Zoning Commission. After speaking with the trustees and our township administrator, we have discussed holding off on appointing a chair at this time, as we would ask Adam to be our interim chair until we get a new regular member onto the board, so the board can make a decision on who wants to be the chair moving forward. I don't have any candidates right now, so as far as any of the board, Dennis, Todd, and Adam, if you have anybody that you are interested or that would be interested in the position, please send them my way, as we are looking for someone to fulfill that position. I will also be reaching out to the alternates to see if they have any interest in being a full regular member, but we still want to look out for other candidates, because we'll need to replace the alternate position if somebody were to move into the regular membership. So Adam, if you're okay with that, I'd like to continue on with you as interim chair. And I don't know if we necessarily need to appoint a vice chair at this time, but we may want to have an organizational meeting in the nearby future. We do have a lot of minutes that need to be approved. So I don't think it's an appropriate time to discuss all that this evening, but just kind of wanted to give the board a heads up.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Michelle.
And then if we go on to the next item, we just need to make a motion to come back from recess.
Yep. Can I get a motion to come back from recess for zoning application ZON-20-01?
Second.
Yep.
Well, I need a motion. Or Adam, was that your motion? Do you want to make the motion then?
No, I was just going to read North Farms Development, but
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay. Dennis, you want to second that still? Or
I second, yes.
okay. Motion made by Mr. Dove to come back from recess for zoning application number ZON-20-01. Second by Mr. McNulty. Those voting, Mr. Bahavich,
yes.
Mr. Dove,
Yes.
and Mr. McNulty.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. The applicant is here, and they do have a presentation, as they have a new proposal for their layout, and I will give Joe Thomas the floor. And Joe, if you want to just let me know when to switch to each slide, that'll work for me. So.
Okay, I'm gonna go, sorry, Joe Thomas, Metro Development, 70 Old Worthington Road, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, and I have been sworn. I'm gonna go over some high points from where we were last time to where we are now, and then I'm gonna have the assistance of Steve Kuckler for some items, and then turn over the slide presentation to Todd Ferris with Ferris Planning and Design. As we were here last time, some items had not occurred yet. One item of importance that had not occurred before our last hearing date due to the pandemic was our regional planning commission hearing, which was held, and that was held on April 30th, 2020, and it was recommended for conditional approval by the board. So just give you that item of standing as far as where we were previously to where we are now. Some other big picture items to kind of point out, and like I mentioned, Todd Ferris and Steve Kuckler go into more greater details But at the last hearing, and this was it with the Orange Township public hearing, we heard a lot about our amount of 3-bedroom units. We went back to the drawing board and reduced the overall number of 3-bedroom units from 72 to 48, which was a reduction of 33%. We also heard about the placement of our clubhouse, that it was too close to our front entry and too close to the North Farm residents. So we moved back the clubhouse, relocated it, put it back towards the back portion of the community itself, and then we actually created more mounds on the plan to wrap around and hide it. Another item of concern was the area traffic concerns. So we believe in discussions with the county engineer's office that this will be a catalyst for area traffic improvements. And then more importantly, when I say area traffic improvements, we're looking at Shanahan Road as a major east-west corridor, collector street that goes, directly to 23. So we've been in discussions with the county engineer about funding going towards that project to widen that to a 3-lane section going from the railroad tracks all the way additionally to the 23 corridor. And like I mentioned, I'll allow Steve to go into more detail here in a moment about that detail. One item that came up through our last discussion with the Orange Township hearing was the Aep Power Outages. So we went into discussions with Aep about their power availability in the area. Of course, we understand that everyone wants regular and reliable electric. We believe that's important as well. AEP doesn't report their power outages and has to track that as a record and has to provide that information to PUCO. So we went into further discussions. So I have some kind of outline to share with everybody as far as those outages in the area. From a tracking period of 4/23/2019 through 4/23/2020, they had 8 total outages going from June 5th, 2019, and their last reported outage in that time period was January 16, 2020. And the reasons for the outages appear to be anywhere from equipment failure, weather, schedule outages, another error in the field, they say. Another reason was contamination and flashover. And then the last 3 outages were weather related or unknown. The last 2 outages of January 9th, 2020 and January 16th, 2020 were actually momentary outages that lasted less than a few minutes. Understanding that with this development, they in our discussions, they said prior to construction, they will be doing upgrades in the area, and that would be providing 3-phase electric down North Road to provide a redundant system, in particular to the North Farms and to the new developments. Another item was the school, as everyone was concerned about the impact on schools. So we, in that discussion, we reduced it, the number of 3-bedroom units, like I previously stated, to 72 to 48. We added additional 1-bedroom units. We previously defined the impact of the multifamily to the schools, and we had a letter from the superintendent, Rafe, on the project. And then since our last meeting, we did have outreach to the neighbors in the area. They felt it was not proper time to discuss this further. However, Metro is always open to further discussion with residents at North Farms and an ongoing discussion about this project. So if Steve would, more importantly, I had Steve wanted to discuss his discussions with the county engineer and the school superintendent, one being related to traffic, other related to the school impact. So Steve, if you can take over on that discussion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Zoning Commission members, good evening. Anybody else listening, good evening. Adam, condolences, acting chair, interim chair, whatever the title is, right? Tough job, but you'll do a great job. Hey, listen,
Hey, Steve,
yeah.
Can you state your name and
Oh, Roger. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Steve Kuckler, 94 North Sandusky Street, Delaware, Ohio, 43015. Right at the last meeting that we had with the zoning commission and the residents, the issue had come up with traffic and just kind of the current issues there on Shanahan. I understand personally because my son attends Shanahan Middle School, and I had the unenviable task of taking him to school every morning. So I'm aware of that traffic issue, especially in the morning and then evening, especially those peak hours, rush hours. So after that meeting, I reached out to the county engineer's office to discuss Shanahan Road. They informed me that as a result of some of the current development and pressures, that they were improving the entryway into Route 23, which obviously if you've been in that area, you'll see the widening of those entrance areas of Shanahan, intersections of Shanahan and 23, and then they're going to be improving that other side onto Hyatt's. But in terms of the Shanahan from 23 to the railroad tracks, I asked them, what's the status? Is that on the county's plan? What's the deal? So he explained to me that it really wasn't at the time, right? And this is where I think is really good news and is exciting about this project is at the time it really was way off into the future. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years. And he mentioned that it would require the cooperation of both Berlin Township and Orange Township as the boundaries of the two townships or the center line of the road. So, but after talking to him, really confident this could be the catalyst with some, creative public financing options that this project could really, again, be the catalyst to get Orange Township, Berlin Township, the county to all work together to actually move up the timeline. In fact, to be honest with you, there really wasn't a timeline, but to at least get that on the timeline in the next couple years to improve Shanahan. I'm not exactly sure what that would be. I think there might be some renderings out there on the presentations, but basically a widening of that and an improving of that. And at the same time, we've talked to Olentangy schools and then also obviously with the county engineer about helping the Shanahan Middle School entrance because they have some exit and entrance issues there as well. So as part of this Shanahan Road improvement, obviously improving the in and out of Shanahan Middle School is obviously critical to that. So that was a really strong positive that we were able to glean. This project moves forward. No doubt, we'll continue those discussions about, how that is paid for and the timing of that. But I think this project again is the catalyst, if you will, to bring Berlin, Orange, and the county engineer all together to really move up the timeline to make those needed improvements on Shanahan. So that I just wanted to update everybody on that. So I think that's really good news. The second thing is I'll just chime in with Olentangy schools. Again, Joe mentioned that some of the issues that came up from the last public meeting was the number of 3 bedrooms. Obviously, Joe mentioned that it drastically reduced the amount of 3 bedrooms, converting those to 1 bedrooms. And if you'll recall the data that I had reported at the last meeting, in terms of the ratio, a multifamily produces less, significantly a lot less students per unit than a single family home. And overall, if this was, again, just to reiterate, if this was a single family project, then you would see, over 37 new students coming out of this development. What I had reported to you at the last meeting is based on the numbers that Olentangy uses. You'd be looking at less than 22 students. But now with the reduction of the 3 bedrooms to the 1 bedrooms, we're looking at a sub 20. It's below 20 students probably produced out of this, if not lower. And the taxation rate of multifamily is higher than on residential because it's taxed at a commercial rate. So at the end of the day, Olentangy schools actually gets a net profit, if you will, a net increase that more than covers the cost to educate, the the students produced out of this. So at the end of the day, a real win-win for the school system. And so now, obviously, with the reduction of the number of 3 bedrooms, it's even more of a win-win. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. This is Todd Ferris with Ferris Planning and Design, 243 North Fifth Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. Michelle, if you go to the overall plan, couple more. As back a couple.
This one?
Yes, that one right there. That's good.
Okay.
As Joe Thomas alluded to earlier, we have stepped back and taken a look at this plan. The reasons being were from comments from our initial residents meeting that we had, as well as comments from the Regional Planning Commission and their staff report. I think the biggest differences you will notice are that the units have been pushed back from North Road. Previously, we had left them generally at the same location as a single family home. So there was going to be that same balanced feel on each side of the roadway. But we did push all of these back to get more green space along North Road, which you know spreads them farther apart. One of the comments from the regional planning also was that we spread these units apart. I think the original layout that we had was modeled more on an urban development versus suburban. So we were creating streets with buildings on them, more urban, where this is more suburban, where these are centered around private or public greens on the north and south, which introduces those activity spaces that the regional planning director was encouraging us to commit to. So we've done that. And in each one of these locations, the north one, we've added the mail kiosk, which, you know, that gets a lot of activity. And then the south would be a patio that would probably have grilling stations and things like that associated with it as well, so they could have community gatherings. Central to the project, we have located the clubhouse. Again, we pulled that back based on concerns of the neighbors that the noise that might be generated from that, if they have pool parties or whatever, would be too close to the single family residence. So we pulled that as far back as we could and located the pool area actually facing the railroad tracks. So any noise would be blocked by the structure itself of the clubhouse. The clubhouse is still easy to find. It's on axes when you drive in, but we've used that as our central organizing element of this site plan. Again, as Joe had stated, one of the recommendations was to dilute the number of 3-bedroom units. So we have taken that out. We actually committed to a reduction of 16 of the 3-bedroom units and adding in 16 1-bedroom. Ultimately, we ended up doing 24 1-bedroom versus the 16. So we listened to the regional planning and went one step a little farther on that one. One other thing to note is we had shown a potential multi-use path along North Road. Now we are committing to that on our side of the street. There were questions about that and how would people get to where they're going. Again, we're showing that we connect to that with the sidewalk internally from our site, as well as to the north, the existing multi-use path as well, just from internal sidewalks. But this will allow the homes that are to be built south of us to have easier access to Jennings Park if they want to bike there or walk there. So we're adding that to the plan as of now. One of the other comments of regional planning was to also spread apart the units to not reduce our density per acre, because that's still the same, but to loosen it up so that when we lay the 1 acre grid over it, that is reduced. We have an example in there. We can go over that at some point in time, but we have done that, and we have been able to accomplish that just by spreading these units around. So that it's utilizing more of the space, so they're farther apart. couple of other comments that were received were, again, we're asking for a parking variance, and that's just based off of Metro's experience in the past. But we have added additional parking based on comments that we received. I think we had said we would add about 3 or 4 more parking spaces next to the clubhouse. I think we ended up adding 8 to 10. I don't remember the exact number, but it was more. And we've also looked at the mounding along North Road itself. We have increased that mounding. Again, we've pushed it back from the roadway, so the open space is shared more as a community instead of internal, but we pushed it back closer towards the units ourselves and increased the buffering along those mounds as well to screen the views from the existing single family to the multifamily. Which I guess brings me to the sections that we can kind of go through. They're probably a little hard to see on a computer screen, and if you're looking at a phone, you're not going to see them at all, but we could probably go to those, Michelle. This is a series of sections, and I guess the explanation is probably worth more than the pictures themselves, but we show the proposed views of the new plan on top versus what the previously submitted plan was before. So we've had these existing section cuts that we had, and we just wanted to show that in all of these instances, the buildings have been pushed back farther from North Road. The mounding and the buffering has been increased. So if you go through, I think we have 5 or 6 different sections. If you go through those, that you will see that we have pushed all those back. So I think that's a benefit, from some of the comments that we did receive from the neighbors and regional planning, but how that was done. We still have, obviously have the buffer along the railroad tracks. That is pretty much the same as it was before. We still include those exhibits in this new presentation as well. That's kind of the changes, the big changes in the site plan. I don't think there's a whole lot more to report on it than that. But there were quite a few additions and modifications that were obviously worth going over. With that, I don't know if Steve or Joe wants to jump back in, or if we want to get comments from the board or what.
Well, if I can jump in, this is Michelle. I'm trying to follow the YouTube chat since it's getting, I don't want to say out of hand, but there's several comments. And can you just, as far for the applicant, can you discuss your attempt of outreach to the residents? I think there were some residents in concern that were not updated on the newest plans, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, I'll let Joe and Steve talk about that because I know that they've tried to reach out, but I'm not in on all the details on that. So, Steve, Joe.
Yeah, I'm here. Joe Thomas, Metro Development, 470 Old Worthington Road. And I have been sworn. We went to Tim Luskin as the neighborhood liaison per se. I believe he had one of the presentations on behalf of the residents in the previous hearing in Orange Township, and made numerous attempts to set a meeting, sit down and discuss our plans moving forward, to share basically what happened in the regional planning, what happened with what we were willing to do going forward with the site plan. For whatever reasons that those meetings weren't able to take place. And like I mentioned earlier, we are more than willing to have additional meetings whenever available or times available by the residents to further discuss these issues. We believe this is a work in progress. So we believe that there's always benefit for us meeting with major stakeholders in the area and to have those discussions. Not been able to have those meetings at this moment, which will obviously be something that, again, we'd be more than willing to accommodate.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for that. I appreciate it. And also for the residents' concern. The only notice that the township legally has to send out is for the initial hearing, which I know it seems like it was a long time ago, was in March. So if you check our Facebook page or our website, we do continue posting any updates on any additional hearings as opposed to the initial one. I did try my best, this is Michelle again, to reach out to all the residents that did email me directly about this application, but I encourage you to contact myself. I think Jeff put in my email address on the YouTube chat too. If you want to continue being updated on this, I'm happy to share all the information with you. I don't want to go through all the public comment now because I really want to give the opportunity for the board members to chime in. But we'll just for the residents' purpose, we will be saving all these comments on the YouTube chat, and we'll share them with both the applicant and the board members after the meeting if we somehow do not make it through all the comments. Thanks.
I'll jump in. This is Todd. I appreciate the redesign. I think it works as a community a lot better. It works for the neighbors a lot better. However, I'm still not keen on rezoning this for multifamily. We've had an awful lot of conversation for the 23 overlay regarding mixing the mixed use with single family. And we're trying to avoid that as much as possible. Therefore, plopping this multifamily as neighbors to single family, I just can't get on board with it.
This is Dennis. I tend to agree. Delaware County Planning also was against the multifamily being here. And just a question, are these apartments or condos or both?
Michelle, I guess a matter of order, do I respond individually at the time of questioning by the board members, or would you want me to wait until you?
You can respond, and Joe, well, for Joe Durham, you don't have to testify every time you say something, right? On the virtual meeting.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, just
Okay.
yeah. So Joe Thomas, if you just want to respond to the questions as they come in.
Okay. The question about Todd Dove on the multifamily mixed use with the single family residence, being a developer of this type of developments over many years. Our company's been developing mixed-use communities over the last 40 plus years in Central Ohio, essentially since the mid-1960s. We consistently build single-family, multifamily communities within boundaries or footprints or area designs. Being that it is a railroad condition along the eastern border, that there's a new Jennings Park directly adjacent to the railroad. We think it's a good buffer or transition going from a heavy intense use like Jennings Park, the railroad, into the single family subdivision, which will allow additional buffer for the noise, not only for the railroad, but also for Jennings Park. These aren't, I guess, inexpensive in nature. These are very luxury apartments, very nice architectural detail, large square footages. The rent is essentially, roughly around $1,400 a month, mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So there's a lot of nice amenities within the community itself, including the clubhouse, the pool area, the walking trails, the exterior now. So we think it's not only just an attribute to the interior of the community that is proposed here, but also to the residents in the area, as Todd Ferris mentioned, along the trail or multi-use trail along North Road. Will actually invite residents to, of course, have a walking system up to Shanahan Road and over to Jennings Park, as well as enjoying the open space that is afforded by the further setback of the apartments towards the railroad. To answer Dennis's questions, these are strictly apartments. However, we will file condominium documents when we develop these, and in the sense that why we file the condominium documents, because it gives greater deed restrictions just than temporary or than most multifamily type of developments, which requires certain exterior maintenance of the not only the buildings, but the grounds, the landscaping, the community center, the streets, the roadways, sidewalks, that anybody who is part of that community has to take care of those exterior requirements per the state of Ohio, and more importantly, the condominium laws of the state of Ohio requires that area to be maintained. So those are my comments for now. Thank you.
And I'm not saying it's not a very well-designed, nice product. I'm just saying that Orange Township has tried to stay with our comp plan, and this just isn't fitting within that comp plan.
Well, I tend to agree with Todd. That's exactly right. But as I thought about this today, they've done a great job with constructing this. And I also believe that the area is very difficult next to the railroad tracks, next to Jennings Park on the other side. Maybe only an industrial park could go here if this doesn't fly. So, but I think you gentlemen have done as good a job as you possibly could.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is Adam. I certainly agree with Dennis there. I think you guys have definitely made a lot of moves in the right direction as far as, really from the previous plan, the buildings and clubhouse and everything was pushed up a lot closer to North Road, moving everything back and creating a larger buffer there, both with the landscaping and mounding and just really moving everything further or closer to the railroad tracks, I think helps with all the single family across the street, and certainly appreciate, having the paths and things that make that connection that you guys have added in. Not that we haven't granted the parking, variance in the past. I like that, you've reduced down, I think, Joe, you said it was 33% now of an increase of single units, but you actually increased parking as well from what was previously shown, I think, by 13 spaces. So, I think that was a good step in the right direction there. Just, before, I think I had a little bit of concern with the amount of parking in the units, but even with that small increase and going down to more one bed units, I think, having an average over 2 now is much better fit. I kind of have some kind of minor questions that just based on the plan that we're looking at right there. The first being that the water meter box that's out front there, is that just like a hot box? Or were you guys planning on that being like a shed type structure or something? Is that, that's pretty front and center there. I just wanted to see what you guys were planning on, if at all at this point. I mean, I don't know if you guys have evaluated that yet.
Yeah, they can be one of two ways, and our preference is to put it into a above grade building. And that might be something to question with the zoning requirements of Norton Township. And the above grade building is usually in fitting that looks like a guard building, or, there's a stone water or brick water table, vertical siding, as well as a cupola, and dimensional shingles on it. So it's a nice looking building.
Yeah.
Another method that we've done in the past is a buried vault that you would never see. And the buried vault goes underground, and is covered by the grade and is covered up by the grass and the landscaping that you would never notice. So it can be, moved up and down North Road. It can move to the entrance to give it more of an entrance feature, or it can, like I mentioned, it can be below grade and not even be seen.
Yeah. Okay. It looked like I had a little bit of a shadow to it, so I wasn't sure if it was intended to be above grade or what. And I know that's kind of a minor thing. And then, the other question, and I didn't find anything else, but I think I was trying to go through my notes from the previous meeting. I know that you guys said as far as the model homes, you guys were looking at having 2 units dedicated for that, for sales. And, now that you've kind of, changed up the percentages of how many units there are for each type, is that still the plan to have those 2 units, or are you looking to add a third now or anything like that for models, or has there been any discussion on that?
Joe, you're on mute.
We'll keep it to the 2 as planned. We traditionally do 1 model home in any one of our communities. Traditionally, it's not an issue of a zoning concern throughout Central Ohio of the model locations, but being it's a concern of Orange Townships in their zoning code, we thought it was prudent of ourselves to leave the option open if we want to do more than 1 model at any particular time, depending on the resources of the area and what, as far as the customer's preference of the type of units that we model. But traditionally, we just do the larger 2-bedroom, 2-bath model. And we do not model a 1-bedroom or a 3-bedroom model in any particular area. But just to leave it open was kind of one of our concerns with, being in Orange Township.
Okay, yeah, because I know sometimes it, parking wise, if there's a few there and there's multiple people looking at them, I just wanted to verify and make sure. But, overall, I think you guys have definitely made a lot of improvements. I think one of the concerns was in the original meeting, I heard a lot of, at least from the community across North Road there, was just having a one way in and one way out. I know that you guys have evaluated that. And I think, Joe, you've mentioned that you've developed another property, possibly in Orange, that has a similar, one way in and out, and traffic wise, it's not that much of a concern. But did you guys happen to look at adding a second entry or anything, given that now you've kind of developed more of this organic, I guess you call it residential design?
Yeah, we try to, place our entries in a movement of, from the existing traffic conditions in the area. And in that condition, it would be the North Farm entry directly across the street, which is to the west. A lot of times when you add a secondary entry, they're like in competition with each other. That creates more traffic, conflicts between each other. This is such a, far as a lower density community of only 144 units. I know that's kind of strange to hear, but traditionally we do communities that are, much denser and a lot more units. But, we have an additional fire access, which is off the single family development to the south. And then, like I mentioned, there was really no other intersection or other type of cross access that was compatible or necessary with the North Farm. So we just, and this is essentially the location, what would have been on the, possible single family development. So, if it's Orange Township's desire for us to add an additional entry, I don't think that's anything that we couldn't accomplish at all. Like I mentioned, it's just one of those things that, additional traffic conflicts is what we try to avoid.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but do you have a general feel as to when Shanahan Road might be widened? I mean, I know that'd be difficult for Delaware County to give you any time frame, but.
Yeah, the normal position of Delaware County when you start these developments is upon the review and approval of the individual building and engineering plans, you consistently do the same thing with the exterior roadway plan. So it's all in the same timing. And then you bond the actual roadway improvements with Delaware County Commissioners, so they guarantee that they'll be completed. So the roadway improvements for Shanahan Road will be similar time frame as the construction of this development.
Okay.
It may be in a fashion of it may start sooner than development, just depending on timing of the seasonal construction, because this will be what they call a TID, which is a transportation improvement district, where it would be private and public funds brought together with multiple developers as well as the county to fund the project. There's a transportation improvement district board that would review and approve the project as the financial and the engineering model goes. And then they will release it for construction, where the county engineer's office actually controls the construction contract as well as the contractor and their timetables. So it's pretty effective way of building these type of roadway improvements in Delaware County, and it's been underway now for a few years. I believe Home Road extension has been part of that process as well, as far as the county process.
Other question, would it be prudent, or at least something to think about, that if this, yes, they are going to improve Shanahan, but to think about another entrance exit off on Shanahan Road to eliminate that traffic on north and the right left on Shanahan?
But we can absolutely entertain that with the Delaware County Engineer's Office. They will ultimately make the final recommendation of those entryways, but under the direction of the concerns of Orange Township as well as the developer, we can certainly make that discussion happen with Delaware County.
Hey, if I may, Joe, this is Steve Kuchler. Was that Mr. McNulty asking those questions about Shanahan?
Yes, it was.
Hey, Dennis, thank you for those great questions. I think the good news is that prior to this corner and this development, the reserve at North Farms in front of you, I don't know that it was really on the county's radar, the improvement of Shanahan Road, until, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years potentially. But just the very conversation of this and bringing it up to them, we've got the interest. Again, it's going to just, full disclosure, right? We got to get the townships, both townships and the county to come together, which I think is very doable. I think we're the catalyst with the potential public finance options to, provide, some of the funding, a lot of the funding for this. So I think the good news is as a result of this project, people are talking about something that maybe they weren't talking about. And,
Yes.
Hopefully at the end of the day, we can get this done.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the letter from the school district able to, is that something we can share right now? Because I know some of the comments on the chat are, that concern that especially that was had in the beginning of the initial meeting too. Is that something readily available for us to review right now, or?
Yeah, I believe that's part of the PowerPoint presentation.
Sure.
Bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you recall, at the last meeting, I said, if anyone, I'm more than happy to set up a meeting with Mark Rafe and any of the residents to discuss, the reduced impact on schools of multifamily versus single family. That offer still stands. Unfortunately, we're just unable to get that set up, or I don't know if Michelle, there's a couple, you have the list of folks who are the various point people for the neighborhood or surrounding area, but again, that offer still stands, right? Because, we think at the end of the day, this is a good thing for the schools. And obviously you can see Mark Rafe's email information about this.
Oops. Yeah, I mean, we can pass this along to the residents if they'd like
Sure.
to contact you.
Sure. I mean,
Hopefully, I'll just.
now Mark, with all respect to Mark Rafe, right? They're a little busy trying to figure out what's going on with the schools, and are they going to open, not open, and all that kind of stuff. So, we just need to be respectful of what they're going through. Definitely the next 30 days, 60 days, just on that kind of stress. But again, I think this letter is very instructive. And again, I'm more than happy to, facilitate a discussion, set up something with Mr. Rafe to discuss this project or, multifamily in general, for sure.
Sure.
Are there any, Michelle, are there any like just broad brush, and don't read them all, but are there any broad brush major concerns that you're seeing in the chat?
Yeah, I'm trying to skim through. I don't want to really reiterate what was
Right.
discussed in the initial hearing, but traffic is definitely one of the biggest concerns. Having multifamily when the residents of North Farms are promised single family homes in their community, that has been an ongoing concern. Jeff has been following the chat more than I have. Jeff, if you're on still, if you can just kind of summarize a few of them that you've been seeing. Otherwise, just for the residents' sake, we'll be sharing all of these with the commission members and the applicant.
Yeah, a couple things that I'm seeing on the chat room. One is we keep talking about Shanahan Road. They're asking about North Road since that's where the entrance is. Is there any discussion on improving North Road?
Yeah, Joe Thomas again. We did discuss the improvements with Delaware County Engineer's Office as far as the North Road. The trips that we generate off of the multifamily as opposed to the previous single family is relatively similar. So the Delaware County Engineer did not see any reasons for improving North Road, but more so putting the improvement into Shanahan Road overall. We were the master developer for North Farms. As the master developer, we paid for and developed what is the existing North Road improvements that went from our southern border in North Farms all the way to Shanahan Road. And then we also put turn lanes in from the east border at the railroad tracks to the west border down North Shanahan Middle School. So we made those improvements as part of this development, and those improvements actually total in roughly $967,000 for those improvements that we spent to date on the North Road and the Shanahan Road. And then we're anticipating that we'll probably make another close to $1 million improvement cost us into the Shanahan widening at that time. But again, North Road, as far as a design spec and width and design load, it's all per the county requirements for this amount of traffic. I presume someday in the future, if things change over time as they proceed to happen within Delaware County, many years from now, there may be some improvements necessary on North Road, but I believe the county is looking more for the traffic to be streamed to Shanahan Road and into 23 rather than function of additional turn lanes on North Road. So.
And we can confirm a traffic study is going to be required with this development. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's actually already been completed and
Okay.
approved by Delaware County Engineers, which is also.
Is that in here?
If you just scroll down one, Michelle, it's
this.
So that is approved by Mike Love as far as he's the traffic engineer.
Okay.
For Delaware County, and he has actually been promoted to the deputy director of Delaware County Engineer. So he's right below Rob Riley as far as his position. And during these discussions, we not only met with Mike Love, we also met with John Pacine, who was the deputy director, and then we met with Rob Riley, who's the director, and Mike Love, who at the acting time was the Delaware County engineer, traffic engineer. So they take their road and their review of the roads very seriously. They obviously do not like for any multifamily, single family, or other developers not to contribute their fair share as far as the improvements in the area. And I can attest to the fact that we've made our fair share impact to the area as far as North Road and Shanahan Road currently, but we are consistently stating that we will further make our financial contribution to the improvements of Shanahan Road as we go forward.
Thanks. Just to kind of high level with the comments again. I think some of the other ones of concern are crime and safety. A couple of people have mentioned that, you know, with all these comments, there are several, if not majority of the residents that do have concern with this development. We don't have to reiterate the whole list of concerns, but I mean, I think the point is that having less of a community support, the community wants the board members to take that into consideration, that the community is not having full support on this at this time. And just for a procedural, because I'm seeing a lot of I think there's some miscommunication with this, as for the residents' sake. The community, the residents, you will hear the board, the zoning commission members' votes. We're not going to be making a decision this evening. Tonight, we really were just discussing the proposed new site plan or the conceptual plan, as we need to make some text revisions. The applicant will need to make some text revisions. So hopefully by the next hearing, which we'll probably talk about that sooner than later, the board can make it, and it's not a decision. The zoning commission is a recommending body, so they will make a recommendation, whether it's a recommendation for approval or denial, that'll then go to the trustees for the ultimate decision. So I just wanted to clear that out. And if any of the residents have any questions on that, you know, feel free to call our zoning office. I'm happy to explain that further.
And Michelle, if I may step in for a moment to talk
Yes.
about the concerns about the crime or the type of use there at the, you know, the multifamily. You know, we go through a stringent application process for anybody who lives in our communities. You know, they not only go through an application portion of their for credit worthiness, income verification, but there's also a criminal record research that we have a firm that, you know, we submit their application. They, of course, review the criminal record. We do not rent to anybody with a felony. We do scrutinize any type of, you know, misdemeanors. We do not rent to anybody with a sex offense or a sex crime of any nature. So like I mentioned, we take this application process. We own the property. We manage the property, we maintain the property to the highest, you know, extent possible. You know, as far as the exterior maintenance, interior maintenance, you know, as far as the community goes. But last thing we want to do as a property owner and a manager is to allow a person to, you know, of course, harm our reputation as well as harm our property integrity. If you screen your applicants well and you make sure you have the proper people in place, as far as that process, your community, of course, continues on as a crime-free residence for everybody, which then continues to make happy customers for us. They, you know, continue to renew their leases with us, and you know, it's not unheard of for customers of ours or residents of ours to maintain their lease with us for many of years. You know, we have some residents that have been in our communities up to 30 years time period, you know, and a lot of times these residents move in and we take such good care of the property that they see the value in just staying there and renewing the lease. You know, other residents, you know, have some lifestyle changes that they go through from, you know, just graduating college, moving in, you know, move up in their position in their employment. You know, then they look to move into a single family residence. And we intend that anybody who lives in this community and is looking for a single family residence will stay in Orange Township and possibly look in North Farms as their next step after moving out. Then we have people that are in the, you know, in the empty nester category that are moving out of single family homes in Orange Township, but want to maintain a residence in Orange Township. So they move into a apartment community such as ours. On the first floor unit, it's fully adaptable and fully what we call ADA accessible, has wider doors, has wider tubs and showers, has higher toilets, grab bars. We even have some that are fully disabled capable that has the roll-in showers, the roll-in sinks, the adaptable or accessible appliances. You know, the thermostats are lower, the light switch are lower, the receptacles are higher for their reach. So we look at this as, you know, across the board, basically cradle to grave, as we call it, in Orange Township, and particularly this area with the single family being close by and then the multifamily aspect.
All right, well, does the board members have any other comments they want to share or questions?
So how will we get the community comments? Is that I don't know how that works.
Yeah, so Jeff and I are gonna copy all the comments that are being submitted in the YouTube chat right now, and we'll just put it together in like a Word doc and send them over to you.
Okay. And then who will be our fifth member? Are we adding a fifth member on this?
No, we're not, and that's just because this application's already been open.
Okay.
Or it's a specific, yeah.
Hey, and Michelle, this is Steve Kuckler. Feel free to, give my email, my number. Joe doesn't mind. I'll speak on his behalf, right? I mean, feel free. We want to talk to the residents and feel free, give them our cell phones, give them our emails. More than happy to talk to folks. It's a little tough in this COVID environment, going door to door and having public meetings, et cetera. So, we'll do the best we can, but, feel free to give that out to folks. We think this is a good project. We think with this project, improvements to Shanahan Road, will happen and, et cetera. So feel free to give out our information so we can, we have those one-on-one conversations. No problem.
Thank you. Well, I guess if I don't know if the board has any other questions, but I have some questions as far as next steps with this. I mean, if the applicant is going to be moving forward with this new proposal, there will be some text revisions that'll need to apply. We did send you a staff report, which also included our legal review comments too. So there are some items that need to be addressed in the revised submittal. So I think that would be the next step on moving forward, but because we're not ready to make a recommendation for this evening. So I guess more like timeline on when you think you can get the text ready, and then we can schedule out the next hearing. I think we might want to try to reach out to the residents one more time. As I mean, when I'm looking through these comments, it's quite frankly, they're all very against it. So it would be nice to have some community support with this application if at all possible. So just want to hear from the applicant before we, look to scheduling the next hearing on this.
Yeah, Michelle, yes, we'd obviously be willing to take our time to meet with the residents, in further dialogue and discussion. I guess it's up for discussion on what you think is a reasonable amount of time on your behalf as far as our next possible meeting dates. I know we tabled the last time. Don't intend to table the next hearing date that we schedule, and be in better position to discuss more detail about the traffic improvements with commitments from Delaware County and the Transportation Improvement District, as well as some concerns we discussed this evening on, some of the internal layouts and more details on those ideas. And then, of course, the staff comments as well as the legal comments, we can address those and get those back to you. So if you think it's necessary for a 30-day time frame, whatever you suggest, or we're looking for input from you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I would like at the very least, a week or two. I would for 2 weeks to, if once the revised submittal, include text and plans, are ready to review prior to the next zoning commission hearing. So at least we can prepare ourselves if the board would like to make a recommendation that evening. So I guess really depending on what the applicant thinks, how long it'll take for them to be ready to submit their next set of plans and texts, and then we would plan it from there. So, I mean, if you think 30 days is necessary, I think that's fine that should work out for the board and staff.
Yeah, that works for the applicant.
Okay. So Adam, I'm just looking at the regular, we really don't have any other applications going on, aside from the Route 23 project. I'm looking at our regular schedule. So the September, well, I guess, what is it, August, so we could, August 25th, I will say that is planned to do the Route 23 application, given the timeline. So I would ask to avoid that date. So, I mean, we would be looking at September 1st. I don't know if that's pushing it out too fast, but then as far as what the submittal for the applicant goes, I probably would like materials by, well, I would prefer the 18th if at all possible, August 18th. Just so we'd also would like our legal counsel to review it too, and give us time.
Yeah, that's fair with us. I appreciate it. The September date is fair with us to get, you know, items back to your guys' attention towards the end of August.
I think Michelle, you said you wanted them on the 18th.
I would like 2 weeks if possible to review, yes.
Okay. I think that's reasonable.
Or, I mean, even if it's by the end of that week, I would like a full week ahead of the meeting, so.
Okay.
So Michelle, we're looking at August 18th would be the resubmission for review, or at least around that date for the September 1st meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct, if the other board members or if everybody's available that evening.
Yeah, I'm available. Todd or Dennis,
I'm
are
good.
you guys?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Well, before we recess this meeting, let me,
Michelle,
yes.
and we'll make sure we have 4 voting bodies that night, as much as we can.
Yeah, I will relay this with Dustin, so. And actually, one of the, Joe Durham, if you're still on, since it is 4 members and if it's a tied vote, I can't remember what happens with that. If it's a 2-2, but.
Well, it's a recommendation, right? So it'd just would be 2-2 and sent to the trustees, I'm assuming. I mean, it doesn't matter if we come yes or no, they can just make their own decision, so. I would assume a 2-2 is just a 2-2.
Michelle, this is Joe Durham. I'll have that answer before we come to this next meeting on September 1st for sure, but it's a good point since we know it's going to only be 4 members.
Okay. Well, before we recess, Jeff, is there anything big that I'm missing on the comments that has not been previously discussed?
I think the only other biggest question I had was with the property taxes, how multifamily will affect the single family property taxes. I don't know if they know that answer or not.
I guess the clarity of that question is more important. Are they asking us, does it affect their values, or does it affect just a property value number or a property tax number? Because neither one is, I mean, you know, our property taxes are separate from theirs. You know, there is no overstepping property tax in this area that one parcel affects the other. So that was kind of a, but if they're asking if the single family will decrease their property value, which would in a sense lower their value on their property, and then in a sense lower the property tax. That, you know, I have not seen any evidence of that happening in my last 30 years of experience doing this.
Okay, thanks. Alrighty, well, I think we will I'd like to try to close out the chat room to make sure we capture everything.
Michelle, do we need to do a motion to recess to the September 1st date or no?
No, we do, yes. I just want to make sure all the discussions close before we do that.
Okay.
But I wonder if I can, okay. I just want to give the residents another minute or so, if possible, to submit any last comments so we can wrap this up and share that out. And then as far with the applicant and your counsel, if you can make your best attempt to reach out to the residents again, I think not only the board, but staff would appreciate that. As I understand the pandemic doesn't help this situation by any means, but we can at least coordinate with you to share some of our contacts that we have with the residents too.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if we could get everybody's contact information. At least we can, we'll just be proactive and reach out to the folks who are providing comments. That's not a problem at all.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, well, Adam, if you want to move forward with the motion.
Yep. Can I get a motion to recess application ZON-20-01 to September 1st?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dove to recess zoning application number ZON-20-01 to Tuesday, September 1st at 7 p.m. In virtual matters. I just want to clarify that. And then second by Mr. McNulty. Those voting, Mr. Prahovich,
Yes.
Mr. Dove,
Yes.
and Mr. McNulty.
Yes.
All right, well, motion carries. That's all I have for this evening, and I appreciate everyone's attendance.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You as well.